We're now going to look at team leaders. So one of the feedbacks we got from our focus group of contact center managers was we want to know more about the role of the team leader. There's not a lot of information we can find to compare team leader roles. So I'm going to throw over now to Alex from COPC, which are one of Australia's leading training organisations, who's interpreted the results to the findings and is going to talk you through them today. I'd like to welcome Alex.
Thank you, James. I appreciate the opportunity to come here. So as James said, my focus in this report was all about team leaders. And that's important because I think team leaders are one of the most important roles to get right in operations. They touch all of your frontline staff, and their ability to care, to mentor, to train, to coach really underpins the success of your overall operation. One of the focus points in this research was the breakdown of team leader duties. What do they spend time on? What is considered important? And what duties do they lack the skills in? Where is there opportunity for them to develop? The first thing we'll focus on is where they're not spending sufficient time. And what was highlighted here is that they're not spending enough time on those core people duties, so coaching and development. However, when we also look at their weaknesses, coaching and development is also considered their greatest weakness. So perhaps there's a link here. Team leaders might be avoiding the activities that they're not very good at. We also looked at where time is being wasted. And in time being wasted, we see that more administration type tasks, so time spent in meetings, coordinating WFM and reporting is where time is being spent, but isn't delivering the amount of value that organizations really want. So there's lots of data here around duties. A second theme though, what we touched on was around KPIs, around how we hold people accountable. And there are many different KPIs, that's it there. There are many different KPIs that people have, but many of them are just different names, but the same intent. So rather than analyzing specific wording, we really looked at it by group. And the KPIs are organized by the most common to the least common. And the first thing I would note, actually on the left, is that almost 1 out of 5 team leaders don't have KPIs. That I think that just means straight away there's an opportunity there. If we don't have clear KPIs, we're not providing that direction and focus. But looking at the KPIs that people do have, I'm surprised that quality and coaching is actually higher than other KPIs around the voice of the customer, like Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction, and customer effort score. And that's my surprise is really because those measurements are the external measurements of success, whereas quality is more of an internal measurement of success. It's also interesting that resolution, our ability to actually help customers and answer their questions, is 8th out of 10, when I would argue it's significantly more important not just to your operations, but to your customers than other metrics like adherence or service level. So a lot of data around KPIs. From a team leader development point of view, 3 in 5 team leaders don't have a structured development program. So they might have some level of development, but not a plan, not a structured approach. And again, I see this as an opportunity across the industry. I think team leaders are one of the most important roles to get right, and we need to support them in this. If we think that coaching and development is a big focus, but they're very weak in it, perhaps they are weak in it because we're not very diligent or structured or strategic in how we develop those skills. Another point to touch on to kind of wrap up my final points from the TL was around the COVID perspective. We really wanted to understand the impact that this has had on team leaders. There were many things highlighted, but at a high level, essentially everyone says COVID's had an impact on us. 93% says it's had a real impact on our business. From a team leader perspective, the three biggest changes that COVID has had account for more than 50% of the feedback given. So they were quite significant, and they are new ways of communication, technology challenges, and learning to coach and lead remotely. And I think this is linked to the first theme of coaching and development. So if prior to COVID, when we first got that data, it was considered the most important skill, but one that we lack the ability to execute on well, then of course, when we move to the new normal of remote management, that will be a more significant challenge for operations. So lots of different insights in this section. I encourage you to read through it once James distributes the report. But to bring a couple of those thoughts together, I think team leaders, again, are one of the most important roles to support your operations, but the data here says that many of the team leaders themselves are not being supported. They don't necessarily have a structured development plan. A chunk of them don't have clear KPIs. And the COVID remote workspace has just taken this to a new level. So I'd recommend really three things if you're trying to do a quick self-assessment is consider how well you are investing in your team leaders to help them be effective leaders in a remote environment. Secondly, consider the KPIs, not just do your team leaders have KPIs, but do they make sense for your business? Are they driving the right outcomes? And then thirdly, we really need to optimize operations. We need to remove the hygiene tasks of operations so that your team leaders can focus on what really matters for your business. But lots of data in here. Strongly encourage you to read through it. Thank you, James.
Thanks very much, Alex, and thank you to COPC for their support in the coordination of the report this year. But the role of the team leader is fascinating, and we will touch on it several times today. And as this report shows, there is such huge differences across the industry in the expectations and the prioritization of the work of a team leader.